booties for black girl nerds.
Hi there, my name is Stacey Vaughn. I'm a Black Girl Nerd, and I am excited to talk with you guys today. I'm a big Outlander head, and so when I heard about the sequel, at first I was like, oh, I was like, the Outlander is a commitment. It's a way of life at this point. And I was like, am I ready to make another commitment? But then as I started seeing more about it, I was like, yes, yes, I am. Tell me about what made you decide that you wanted to do this prequel. And specifically, I'd love to hear from you both about the decision of how and when to add in the more kind of mythical time traveling elements to it.
Well, we had, I've been thinking about this for a while. And, we, at one point, we didn't know when Outlander was going to end, so we didn't know about renewals and actors and all those things. So you start thinking, hey, how do we keep the universe going? So, but around season 5, I pitched the idea to Diana first to see if she would be on board with it. And she was excited that we were going to do this. And so we started to run with it then, but, with pandemic and things just kind of got in the way. And then, given that time, so that downtime that I had, so rare, started thinking about, the Ellen and Brian story is just right there in the book. So you think about that, and then I had the thought about what if they Claire's parents didn't die in that car crash? What if they lived? Mm-hmm. And not tell their parallel story of them in the war and things, but what if they went back in time? What if they, crossed paths with Brian and Ellen and somehow were involved in helping the two iconic characters get together? And that's when it really took off. And I think once we found that kind of spark, the show really took off. And the ideas just started to come and flow. And so we were, as the Ghostbusters do, we were crossing the beams all over the place.
I think also in terms of the mythical elements and time travel, it's such a cornerstone of these series, both Outlander and now Blood in My Blood. And so, I think there's always a through line of that through everything we do. Even if it's not every episode, it's this magical idea of if you could go to another time and what would happen and how would you react. And it's such a fun thing to think about, and also a fun thing to see how that plays out. But
it's also, imagine the story with just Brian and Ellen's story going here and Henry and Julia's story going here. I don't know if you can call it Outlander verse in that way. Is it? Because you need time travel is what elevates Outlander into something magical and special, and I think that's what this does.
Well, I think it's used as more than just kind of a device, but it is a way to build the connections between each couple. We get to see different parts of themselves. Yeah. And one thing I thought was so interesting was the difference between Henry's experience and then, of course, Julia's experience, and specifically with the way that women were treated in this era. I wanted to ask, and we can start with you, Maril, were you conscious of making sure to have that be a part of the story that was being told? The fact that there were these differences between the time that they came from to now that would specifically affect Julia more than it would Henry.
I think it's more that, and Matt and the writers have delved into this. I think it's more that showing how women were treated versus men in that time period. Julie comes through and she's, relegated to be the scullery maid, whereas Henry comes through and then he's the bladier. Like, he's in a position where he's not struggling quite as clearly as Julia. And that is the reality, unfortunately, of that time. With Claire, she came through and she had
sometimes the reality of this time too.
Yes, unfortunately. So I think it was just important to show that and show that their journeys were markedly different. And that Julie really didn't have a lot of options. Henry was lucky that he fell into a situation where his talents could be utilized in a way that was a little more comfortable than Julia.
Tell me, just for a fun question. How do you go about keeping everything straight, especially with the timelines? I know Outlander fans are very, they're like eagle eyes, so they will know.
Boy, that's putting it lightly. Yeah. So we have backstops in that. Like, I'm going to tell you right off but we're never going to get everything exactly right. There's going to be some continuity issues here and there, and those are expected. That's with every single show that's ever been made. We try to do the best we can, which we have a very, very high bar. We have people in prep, so our researchers and the writing team and then on the backstop is our post department who have been with us from day one of Outlander. So we have many people that are still with us and they know the shows like the back of their hand. So I can say, hey, I need this scene, and they'll know exactly where to find it in what episode and where in what episode. So we look at those things. And again, somebody asked this question earlier about something that happens in episode 112 of season 1. And, we didn't know we were going to have a prequel in season 1. We didn't even know we were going to have a season 2. So what you try to do in season 1 is just put out the best show you possibly can. And there are going to be things that we did on the show. Like we immediately, because we had to film in October when we began, the books start in May. Well, we started in October. So the timeline was immediately thrown off on the show. And we struggled to figure out how to get back to the other timeline where we really never could. So it's just elements like that you just can't, you can't fix. And you don't, it's not necessarily you don't try to, but you do the best you can.
And also we have in addition to post, we have a great support staff both in Los Angeles and Scotland who keep us honest, who kind of are doing the timelines and making sure we're not doing something.
We also have massive continuity books,
Yeah.
and we know what we've done, and we reference, we see what something looks like, and can we match that? So there's all those little details. And story-wise, we can go back, thankfully, and just look at all the episodes and go, all right, what did they say in that spot?
I love that. And it's Outlander in and of itself is a nice little piece of escapism. So I think a lot of fans, they'll nitpick, but they're willing to give a lot of grace. I am so excited for the rest of the season. Thank you so much for taking a little time to talk with me about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And 2 and beyond. So I'm ready. I'm waiting.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. I am so excited to speak with the two of you. I'm a big Outlander fan from season 1. It's always been good
Thanks,
time.
Stacey.
I love a backstory. And I was especially interested because I said the one thing, being about kind of the Scottish history is one thing. And, that's very interesting. But I want the magic. I want the time traveling. I want the fairies, all that good stuff. One thing that I love specifically about this series is between Henry and Julia's reactions going into this next part. We get a reaction from Henry like, oh, what have we gotten ourselves into now? Which is such a wild kind of reaction to traveling so far back in time, but it's also so Henry. It's something that fits him so well. So starting with you, Jeremy, and we can kind of go back and forth. Tell me about how you went about crafting those reactions and what do those reactions say about your character in the show?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, something that me and Amani talked a lot about because how do you play going back in time? It's it's not something that us in real life would ever have to deal with. And I think what we came down to was these are people who are just trying to survive, right? They're just and they've gone back to a time where, as Henry very quickly realizes, to be an outsider could mean death, and he's got to immediately fit in and just live on his wits, sort of second by second. And if he doesn't, he risks, getting in harm himself, and also potentially never seeing the love of his life ever again. So it's I think he's just living second by second and just trying to be as resourceful as he can. And I think it's that resourcefulness that we see in Claire. And so it was nice to sort of tie that together.
How about you, Hermione?
Yeah.
similar to Jeremy, it's a challenge to play that, to play going back in time, particularly because Julia has much more agency in the 20th century. You know, she's in the redaction office, she's part of the suffragette movement, and then she goes back in time and she's immediately imprisoned and captured. So she has a rough time of it, and I think that was, it's a combination of she's constantly learning about the new world she finds herself in, but also trying to assimilate, and go undetected, so she's not in danger. And that's a lot to play. But yes, I suppose it was a kind of, the way I was looking at it was going back to your most basic instincts. You know, what do you do when you find yourself in that level of danger, and how does one behave? Which is kind of where I went off. At least that was the starting point.
Well, I definitely want to give kudos to you, because and to you, Jeremy, there were so many Clarisms, and you could see like 100% she was this offspring, along with good old Uncle Lamb. So I thought that was so beautifully done. I wanted to ask about the relationship. When you have a series like this that has so many moving parts, and then you kind of, have to section it into 6 episodes, it really becomes important to build that relationship, to make it so that we believe we are as passionate about your relationship as you guys are. Tell me, what kind of conversations did you have to kind of make sure that passion was coming through, so when they are separated, we can see the ways, coming back together, how desperate that is?
I think it was a case of layering up the passion and the attraction to each other, but also as in the characters, sorry, but then also the meeting of minds. Like they're also so they're a little way into their love story, and they know each other so well. They know each other's flaws, so there's a deep level of understanding there as well. It's not just lust that's drawing them back together. They are each other's home, and they have a family together. Like they are the other half of each other. So yeah, it was finding the combination of those things, I would say.
How about for you, Jeremy?
Finding some light amongst the dark as well. Very quickly gets quite serious. So I don't know, that scene where we first, the way it was written was just sort of they meet and they start to kiss and undress, and this is the first time they sleep together, and it turned into this really sort of giggly, I don't know, sort of like teenage lovey sort of thing, and it was an incredible sort of their ease together was sort of instant, and you had that passion as well as this feeling that these are people who they're just meant to be together.
The whole time I was like, just loved it. Thank you two so much for taking a little time to talk with me about this fantastic show. Congratulations. And we're hoping for that second season, because I'm ready.
We're filming it right now. So
we're filming it right now. So you're definitely getting it.
Ooh, listen.
We're about 2 months in.
I love it. Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
I am a big Outlander person. And first of all, Harriet, I loved you in Pennyworth. I was a big Pennyworth fan. And so we have another kind of like semi-historical thing happening with you in it. And I was so happy to see you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about Ellen and Brian. There is something to the idea of kind of like love at first sight and being fated. But there's something that Brian and Ellen see in each other. And a lot of it, I feel, has to do with the idea that they're kind of two misshapen pieces in their families, but somehow they kind of fit together. Starting with you, Harriet, what do you think it is that Ellen saw in Brian the first time that she saw him, and then vice versa for you, Jamie?
Oh, well, he's not bad to look at.
I want to say those dimples.
That's what I was looking for. That's fine.
Honestly, yeah, I think the initial attraction is physical, and also I think there's this element of they just it was described in the script as a thunderclap moment where two souls destined to be together finally meet and, realize that they have no choice in the matter. Also, yes, okay, he's very good looking. But then I think the more she gets to know him
One more time.
and his personality, he has great hair. And she realizes that actually he's just completely different to any man she's ever met before. He's thoughtful and open and vulnerable and poetic and so romantic. And also, I think the fact that he has no idea who she is actually a massive draw because she's so used to these guys fawning all over her. But potentially because of who she is, she's the MacKenzie eldest daughter. She's a lady. She's in a powerful position. And so it would benefit a lot of people if they were to marry her. Whereas with Brian, it's like the worst thing in the world that they fall in love with each other, really, because they're from rival clans and everyone is telling them that they shouldn't be together. And yet the heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah, it's very. Yes.
I think with Brian, it was instant magnetism. He's just escaped, from getting caught from these guys. And all right, Ellen's pretty as well, and she's funny. And but actually, genuinely though, she is funny because it's like they have a little bit of banter right before, between the slats, and it kind of catches Brian off guard, I think, and there's a boldness that she has, which is like that's why his eyes turn. He's like, huh, and that catches his eye literally.
Hey.
That's the first time I've just even thought. It's funny how you like think of things in the moment you say them, like, oh, she catches his eye.
You can have that. That's the first time he's ever said that.
It's all yours. Then when he sees her, when she comes back out from behind the slats, is like, wow, you're stunning. But there's more than that. It's just they get lost in each other's eyes and just really enjoying taking each other in. And they're doomed from that moment.
Right. Well, there are instantly obstacles, and starting from the idea that these are very Hatfield McCoy, Capulet kind of things happening where these families are just not getting along. And, if you put them in a room together and fed them, then maybe you might be able to make something work, but that's not happening anytime soon. What do you think for Ellen and for Brian that it is that gives them that hope, that light? We see them get so close to the threshold and then something pulls them back, or something immediately gets in the way and then they have to kind of navigate it around it. What is it that keeps them searching, that keeps them running back to each other?
I like to believe that hope is self-generated, like we can make our own hope from inside. And I think for these characters, that's such an integral part of who they are. They both are big hopefuls.
They are big hopefuls.
Hopers.
Right?
They're
hopers. Optimistic. Yeah, they are.
Chances.
No, they are,
They
right?
believe that they will end up together.
Because if they weren't and they met each other and then they realized, oh, like this is the worst possible thing.
Yeah.
And then they just be like, cool, like see you later, and they'd walk on their other sides of the bridge. But they don't. They choose to keep on going and keep pursuing this. And that has to be just like, this hope that they self-generate to be like, I've found something in you which I haven't found anywhere else before, and I'm not going to let that go no matter what.
I think they also like who they become when they're together. I think they both feel at peace and like their truest selves when they're together in a way that they don't feel with anyone else. And I think that's, for Ellen anyway, I think that's what she needs and clings onto. She'll sacrifice anything for that.
One thing that's so interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Ellen and Brian were such kind of mythical figures within the Outlander verse. And Outlander is a huge show, very many seasons, lots of fans. What does it feel to step into those shoes, to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be portraying the mother and father of like the Jamie Alexander? What does it feel to kind of be able to step into that? And do you feel kind of overwhelmed by it? Are you excited by the challenge? Where do you land in there?
It feels mostly overwhelmingly exciting because, what an honor to get to play such a beloved characters who mean so much to people Yes, there's an element of, wanting to live up to people's expectations and not wanting to disappoint, and wanting to sort of take care of these characters that they've lived with for so long. But I think that all of the support that we've had has only made us more confident and more excited in this, this show being released.
And I love the way that you put it when you said like these characters are mythical, because then that also sets us up for success, because people are going to want to watch us. They are going to want to see, how these characters are, and, how they bring them to life on the screen. And yeah, there's added pressure with that. But, when you're working with, some of the best actors, you're with the best crew, creative team, I mean, it all just adds up to creating a successful environment. And I think we've made something which everyone's really, really going to enjoy.
Well, I am so excited. I got my family tree out. I'm marking stuff off.
Yeah.
I am ready. So thank you guys so much for taking a little time to talk with me about the show.
Thank you. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Loved it.
Yeah, I can't wait for season 2. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.